What's up, everyone? Nick and Mac here for Empty the Benches, back with another division preview for you. You know what time of year it is. Life rolls on, and much like the band that wrote that song, this is going to be slightly stupid. So, Mac, how's it going? I know you've got a little bit of an update for us with Mac's misfortune. So, what's going on there?
I do, yeah. So got an update on the car and the Twitter situation, kind of. I'll start with the car. I got a text from my uncle today saying that my car will be ready to be picked up tomorrow or Friday, whichever I'd like. I said, okay, is it okay? And he said, it will be soon. He basically just said it was like the computer or whatever, but I guess they're going to be able to fix it. He said, it's nothing that serious. And he also said, and I quote, this car has years left in it. So
Wow.
we're not dead yet, baby. I'll probably have to shell out a little bit more money to my uncle, but I'd rather pay him than the Honda dealership. And
Yes.
I'd definitely rather have a functioning car than have to find anyone and have a car payment. So I'll take that W. As for Twitter, I think you're aware of this already because I had to consult with you. But if anyone on the show previously followed I think there were 12 of you total. So
Right.
if any of you were the 12 followers of the account formerly known as Empty Butters,
AKA Putt Butts 69. So,
correct. That is now my official burner account. Don't tell Elon Musk, but I will be operating under the new moniker of Brave Little Toaster, still at PuckButt69, but that's where you can find me. I think if you go on that page, you'll see a couple of tweets already that prove it is the real me. So just wanted to give everyone an update on those two situations. Things could be looking up for me.
So is the logo, is the profile picture the Brave Little Toaster?
It's him.
That's incredible.
He's looking dashing, might I add.
Well, when does he not? I mean, come on. All chromed up, got his slits all clean up top.
I did the one with the cape too.
That's a good one.
He's cruising. Also, let's go ahead and introduce our guest for the episode.
Yeah, that's all right.
Joining us for this episode, my good friend Anders Hall.
Hello. Excited to be here. Honored to be here, really. Big fan of the show.
Anders to be here.
There we go.
So
let's keep the laugh.
Yeah, let's just keep it.
We're off to a hot start.
Lifelong Canucks fan. If you wanna, do you have anything to say about that before we dive in?
No, I mean that's just one of the many things wrong with me is my fandom of the Canucks. I do want to explain the pitch you gave me for coming on to the show.
Okay.
Which was
I don't remember this, but let's hear it.
Yeah, you definitely don't remember because it was top 3 drunkest I've ever seen you. We're sitting at the halfway point between our two houses, which happens to be a middle school or something.
I really hope you were outside the middle school. Inside could be problematic.
Yeah, we tried to get in. It was pretty late. But yeah. His main pitch, to summarize it the best I can, dude, I think it'd be a lot of fun. We can drink beer. We're allowed to cuss on there. And I was like,
yeah.
That's fun. That's my 2 favorite things. That sounds awesome.
Those are 2 things this show is known for.
Yeah, both of those things are a lot of fucking fun.
So nice, man. That was really cool. Really excited to do both those things with you guys today, for sure.
Hell yeah. Mac, if you had to, with what's going on with your car, if you had to compare it to an NHL player that's had, injury problems, who would it be and why?
That's such a good question. Well, it's important to note that this car, it's a 2010 Honda CR-V, which, not that old. So we need a player that's, not that old.
But, has been around. I mean, that's 15 years old.
Has been around, but, is typically reliable. Because, again, it's a Honda, so it should be able to last that long.
Right.
But also, it's been, there's been a million times where I've thought, okay, this is finally it. It's got a problem that is going to total it. And then it miraculously is a somewhat easy fix, and then a few months go by and then it's on IR, so to speak, again. Right. So I don't know.
Is it Mark Stone?
That's actually not a bad. Right? That could be. Yeah.
He's sturdy. He's been around. He constantly has problems, but he always comes back.
Yeah. And he's not I can't say it's Patrick Kane because it's not my car was ever an all-star or anything. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which I know Mark Stone also it was an all-star, but I'm saying
but not
he's not
superstar, not a goal scorer kind of guy.
Franchise car,
Exactly. So no, that's a good answer. I'll steal that answer from you. Mark Stone it is.
Nice. I like it. So Pacific Division preview. Let's go alphabetical like we always been. Let's start with the Ducks. I feel like this is actually one of the more interesting teams to start with here. That's why I got the Mighty Ducks tarp on. And it's also just, once again, a message to them to change it back. But a lot going on. John Gibson is finally no longer an Anaheim Duck. He's now in Detroit, so it only took the Red Wings, 3 years to get a goalie like we've been saying, but I don't think that's necessarily their biggest move. I think their biggest move was Trevor Zegras being traded away, traded to Philly. Apparently, these two teams like to trade with each other. We saw that with Jamie Drysdale. So just, Mac, your first impressions right off the bat with Zegras going out the door in Anaheim.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been such a question mark the last year that I think now that it's happened, I think it's really good that Zegras didn't become one of those players like a Mitch Marner or like a Stamkos that were year in and year out talking is he going to get traded? Is he going to get traded? There were a lot of rumors around it, but it lasted for half a season and then it just happened.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that's good for him, and I think it's good for the Ducks too. The other thing that's interesting, I mean, obviously losing a player like that, he's talented, so it's not a good thing necessarily, but we all know what his production was last year and his injury problems. So I don't think it's necessarily a massive loss for them either. Also, they brought in really interesting pieces too. I'm very excited to see Kreider there. I'm honestly just really excited to see Kreider not on the Rangers because I've always loved him as a player,
Right.
and I just hate the Rangers so much. I can't root for him, but I
It's
try
kinda
to
the
get him
best
on my
place for
fantasy
him.
team almost every year, and I am even more excited to try and do that this year because I can actually want him to score goals.
Right. It's kind of like if you and I could have picked a place where he could have gone, it's probably one of the two best places. The other one might have been San Jose, but I mean, it's as far away from the Eastern Conference and the Metro as you can get it. I think Anaheim's a team where I wouldn't hate if they were good. I wouldn't hate if they snuck into the postseason. I think we know they're on the up and up, but I really like the Kreider move. I think that's great for them. I echo that with the Granlund move. I think that's fantastic. We saw what he could do. So I think that's just stability, for top six for them, which they desperately needed.
The other thing that I want to add is you mentioned Gibson out the door. That's one that's kind of been a long time coming. I mean, he's been there a long time. He had some good years there, but probably time to shake things up a little bit. And Dostal was, pretty capable for them when called upon last year. But now they also, besides Dostal, have the two former Red Wings goalies, Mrazek and Ville Husso. So it'll be interesting to see. I would think Mrazek will end up as the backup, and Husso maybe just kind of fades into the minors or something. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that tandem shakes out.
Yeah, I mean, one
Your
of those
thoughts
guys,
on the Ducks?
one of those guys
Yeah.
could easily get moved too.
Yeah, true. I think getting rid of Zegras, it always looks hard. It's hard to lose a guy who looked like maybe your franchise talent for a while, but I think it just gives them more direction because for a few years now, it was just kind of what are they actually doing? What does the 5-year plan look like? And I like Kreider there a lot too. I think it just gives them. I still don't think they're going to be amazing this year, but I think it gives them something more specific of a plan to build towards and look forward to.
What do you guys think about the decor?
It's interesting. It's
Kind
young.
of confusing to me.
Yeah.
It's definitely young. You've got guys like Zellweger in there, and I think he's got some
McCollum.
huge, offensive potential upside there, which is great. Mintyukov, another one that people are very, very high on. He showed glimpses last year of being great. I think it's probably going to be another building block year for him, as it is with a lot of young defensemen in this league. Obviously, 19-time NHL All-Star Radko Gudas, that's fantastic to see him wearing the C for these guys.
That is dope.
I think it's a better decor than a lot of people are giving them credit for.
You didn't even mention Jacob Trouba,
That's right.
the people's elbow.
Right.
Exactly. The hammer of justice himself. Yeah. How many games? Over under 30 games into the season before he has to sit one out?
I want to say under.
I'll take the over just to be
Okay.
controversial.
We'll circle back for sure.
It's a 2026 suspension.
Yeah, I think so. I
Okay.
think so.
Fair enough. I think this first power play unit could be very interesting. Right now, Daily Faceoff has it as Kreider, Carlson, Terry, Gauthier, and Lacombe.
Yeah.
There's a lot of skill in that power play. It might not jump off the page as one of the best in the league, but I definitely think it could be one of the better ones in this division.
I agree. It's sneaky good.
Well, and it would be huge for them if it was, because they were the worst power play in the league last year, which, like,
Absolutely.
in a world where the San Jose Sharks exist, it's kind of embarrassing to be the worst at anything.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah. I really like the third line here, Vetrano, Strome, Colangelo. If they stick with that, I think that could give a lot of people problems. We've seen how steady Ryan Strome can be. We can see what Frank Vetrano can do when he's healthy for this team. So, yeah, I think that's a home run for them.
Yeah, that's another sneaky good line. I think to wrap up the Ducks, I expect them to be better than last year. Who did I say this about in the last episode? I think I was saying this about Utah, that they're a team that you won't be like you were the last couple of years. You won't be like, oh, nice, we've got the Ducks coming up. Like, that'll be an easy one. Like, I don't think it'll be a team anybody's like dying to play, because I think they'll fight hard, but I will go ahead and lock in that this is not a playoff team.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I think they'll be competitive, like you said. Like, I don't think they're going to embarrass themselves out there, but I think they're still a year or two away before really, like, pushing for any sort of wild card consideration.
Yeah, definitely. Mac, I like the Utah comparison. I would expect these guys to have about the same amount of points at the end of the season.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah. Just for note, last season the Ducks finished in this division with 80 points. That was just a tick ahead of the Kraken and then miles ahead of the Sharks, which it would have been hard for them to mess that up. But let's go ahead and move on to the Flames. Big departure here is Anthony Mantha ends up with the Penguins, and then they bring in Ivan Provettsov at goal. Relatively quiet offseason for this team, which I thought was a little bit weird. I kind of expected them to do a little bit more, but it's such an interesting group in Calgary. You know, they've shown glimpses of being good. They've had some pieces leave. Now we don't really know what we're getting. Do you have like just an initial thought process when you look at this roster?
I have a few. The defense is bad. That's what I will say. Their decor is not good at all. Anderson, great player. Uyghur can be a good player. The rest of it, I don't really care about. I'm sure people will try and tell me that Kevin Ball is a perfectly capable top four defenseman, and I would tell you he'd probably be like a second or third pairing guy on most other teams. But yeah, I'd say that's their biggest weakness. The goaltending is good, actually. I think Dustin Wolf, he had a great year last year, didn't he? And Devin Cooley, and then you mentioned they've got Prosvetov or whatever, in the pipeline there too. So goaltending should be fine. When I look at the forward core, a lot of potential. You know, you've got guys like Backlund who should be able to still perform. Huberdeau kind of showed last year that he, maybe he's not going to be a total bust forever from here on out. You know, the first little bit there after he got moved from Florida, it was like, holy shit, this trade like just ruined this guy. But it was good to kind of see him have some glimpses last year where it was like, okay, turning it on, I like it. You know, it's not a flashy team, but it's a feisty team, and it's a pretty physical team. So they've got that going for them.
Yeah, I think my big concern when I look at this roster, and I love your point about Huberdeau, is it strikes me as a group of guys that all need to have really big bounce back years. You know, you look at guys like Huberdeau, Kadri, Farabee, Frost, Sharangovich, like all those guys really need to take another step forward if this team is going to contend for a playoff spot. And I'm not saying that they can't, but I think when you've got that many guys on one team that need to take that step simultaneously, it just becomes a little bit harder for the group to succeed as a whole.
It also just kind of feels a little bit like the Island of Misfit Toys. Like there's a bunch of dudes who were like maybe going to be really good for another team and then just somehow ended up here. Like Sharangovich, Frost, Farabee, those guys all like had like glimpses on their former teams of like, oh, this guy could be maybe really good for them. And then like got traded at those peak values and then just kind of ended up in Calgary. And now it's like, okay, are these guys good players, or are they just like kind of middle six to bottom six forwards that are just now playing for the Calgary Flames all together? Like,
yeah,
it's a little odd. I don't know, but I think it's got a potential for those guys to be really good. It's just, will we see that or not?
Exactly.
I think it is. It's a team of guys who would be really good if they played for a good team. You know, Dustin Wolf, especially down the stretch last year, was insane.
Yeah.
Got himself a 7-year contract because of it. So I think in general, I don't know, I see them kind of, they should be happy to kind of finish around where they did last year, unfortunately. But if he can play like that for the course of an entire season, who knows? I mean, if he can steal enough game, I feel like they'll be in a lot of close games this year. So it's just about the ones that they'll be able to steal.
They were kind of in the hunt last year, right?
They were 5 points off of
very close.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Okay.
And I think it kind of came down to just like a point situation with that wild card thing anyways. My big question with them is going to be Rasmus Anderson, because we've seen all the trade rumors. We've seen that he wants a trade out of there. All signs point to him leaving at some point. I don't know how that affects that locker room. I don't know what that does for, him with his teammates. So that's definitely going to be a question mark for me in the first half of this year. I mean, if it starts going really well, does he end up wanting to stay? I totally could see that. If it goes off the rails and we end up with a Nashville situation by October, could he be out as early as November or December? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Something to keep an eye on for sure. I think, unless anyone else has anything further to say about the Calgary Flames, not a playoff team, in my opinion.
I would agree.
I would also agree. I the one thing I would maybe say that Flames fans, if they exist / listen to the show, I would want to hear is with the defensive pairings not looking super strong, they do have Zane Park, who
Yes.
people are really excited to see. So I'd definitely be watching him. But other than that, not a ton of reasons to tune into Flames this year.
I would think he would get a full-time roster spot out of camp. I would kind of be shocked if he didn't.
I think so too.
Yeah, it's not that there's not like some potential with the D. It's just not like an established core that you're really confident in at this moment.
Right. I mean, it could definitely be something like we saw with Dallas last year, where Thomas Harley just, wakes up in the middle of the year and starts playing the best hockey of his life. So, I mean, if one of these guys does that, like if Parekh does that, that could be amazing to watch. Or, you never know.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and move to their next door neighbor and hated rivals, the Edmonton Oilers. This should surely not be controversial at all. Key departures: Connor Brown, Corey Perry, Jeff Skinner, and Arvidsson. Their big free agent signing comes from your Washington Capitals in Andrew Mangiapane, and then Evander Kane traded to the Vancouver Canucks for a 4th-round pick. Gentlemen, how do we feel about things in oil country?
I'm going to let you go first. I need to collect my thoughts for a minute.
I mean, it's hard to say I feel bad for them, but I will say they're in a very unenviable position as far as they have to win the cup or the season's a failure. They're one of 2 teams in the league, 2 or 3 maybe, that you could say that about. But I don't know. This definitely feels like the year where it's either this year or the window's shut. They're one of the oldest teams in hockey. Like, going through their roster, I perceived Zach Hyman as like one of their younger players. He's 33. So it's not, I was also talking to McCain about this. They don't have a ton of flexibility going forward either. They're paying Darnell Nurse more than Cale Makar. So realistically, when you put yourself in those kind of positions, they've made their intentions to win now, to keep McDavid. They've made that very clear, but I think their ability to do so is getting thinner and thinner every year.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest addition that people are excited to see how it pans out is obviously like the whole Isaac Howard situation.
Yes.
Not totally sure how much faith to put in that. It could end up being something that absolutely just works out beautifully for them, and they're just like a freaking powerhouse because of it. But you just never know with like young guys like that when they get to the league how they're going to play, especially like guys who were just kind of in the whole like controversial thing that we keep seeing more and more of like, I don't want to play for this team.
Yeah.
Then they get traded, and then there's like even more pressure to like prove that you're good because now you got this whole fan base that kind of hates you. Like, I don't know. It's an interesting situation. I just think the biggest thing, and if you've been listening to this show for any amount of time, you've heard me say it again and again and again and again. I just keep opening every single year at the start of the season. I just keep opening Daily Faceoff, scrolling to the bottom, and I'm like, shit, yeah, okay, I guess we're just running it back again with Stuart Skinner and Cal Picard or whatever random guy they throw in that backup spot each year. I cannot imagine being Connor McDavid or Draisaitl or Bouchard or any of these guys, Nugent Hopkins too, that have been here for a while, and you just had what happened to you happen the last 2 years in a row, and you hear your GM come out there and say, "No, I feel good about Stuart Skinner this year. I'm excited to see him play this year." Like, I just can't imagine being in that situation. But
it has to be incredibly frustrating. And like, I understand, like, hey, it's like if you want to stand behind your guy, back up your goalie as a coach, I totally get that. And I think that's very admirable. But I do think there's also a little bit of the definition of insanity coming into play, which is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So,
yes.
yeah, I don't know how good I would feel about that going into another season. I also think that, if you look at this team last year, it was a team that got over 100 points just by one. They were a 101-point team. Their path through the playoffs was interesting, to say the least. So they beat the Kings in 6 games.
And very, very narrowly lost that series, might I?
Yes. And then their next 2 series, they both handled in 5. So I think maybe you go, were they not battle tested enough? Did their playoff run not harden them enough? But then I know there's another edge to that argument, which is they should have been fresher. They should have had more jumps. So, pick whatever side of that you want to. I like the Mangiapane move for them. I don't know how much production they're going to get out of him if he gets buried on like a third line with Adam Henrique or something. But then again, when I think you take into consideration what this team has in top 6, I don't know if you're necessarily looking at Andrew Mangiapane to be the guy to, put the puck in the back of the net. You're probably relying on 29, 97 and a bunch of other guys to do that. How much do you think the Perry departure and the Evander Kane departure hurts these guys? Although both of those guys may not have been the most electrifying in the regular season, I don't really think we can deny how valuable they were in last year's postseason run.
It's an excellent point, and I think it does way more to the identity of this team than it does to the X's and O's of it. I mean, those guys are 2 just hard-nosed players that you don't want to. Anyone on any team in the NHL, if you're skating into the corner going after a puck, you don't want to turn your head and see one of those guys being the guy that you're about to rough it up in the corner with. You just don't. I mean, they're just guys that are they're gonna run you a little bit. They're gonna kind of hit you when they can and get their marks on you when they can. But I don't know that they really did anything to replace those intangibles that those 2 guys bring either. So I wonder if we'll see a little bit of a softer team here.
I like Podkolzin, who they re-signed. I think he's their best bet at finding that kind of player again. He kind of showed signs of that when he played for Vancouver, and he was good for them last year too. So I do think losing those 2 guys is a huge identity shift for them. And when you have these star players that people are wanting to take shots at, it's kind of hard to not have guys like that who are willing to get in the way.
I guess Trent Frederick is now the number 1 goon, so to speak. But I'm not very scared of Trent Frederick personally.
Maybe him or Ekholm on defense.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily. I just see him as a tough guy, not as a goon.
Not exactly. Yeah, I don't know.
This is interesting.
I'd rather have somebody like Perry around to protect those superstars, but
100%, especially in the postseason. I think with this team, inevitably, what we're going to have to deal with all season is a full year of McDavid contract talks. I mean, throughout the year, is he leaving? Is he staying?
It's going to be annoying for sure.
I will say this now. I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I would be so shocked if he ended up on a different team. There is no way in hell that the Edmonton Oilers are going to let Wayne Gretzky walk away. And I know they traded him away, and then simultaneously let Connor McDavid leave. There's no way the fan base would ever forgive them for that. You would alienate, I think, 35% of people just instantly by doing that. So
it would be unbelievable. It's something that I actually can't even picture what would go down with it's hard enough when we see a guy like Marchand get traded or somebody like that, and you see Bruins fans losing their mind over it.
Right.
But I can't even come up with a comparison that I've seen in my lifetime for a trade like this to happen, where a team is holy fuck, please don't do this.
What is the biggest trade that you can think of in our lifetimes that would even come close to a superstar like that
in the NHL?
Yeah. Or not, if you can think of a better
the
one.
Luka Doncic thing would be
Yeah, I
a similar
guess
That was
that's-
pretty
comparison,
big.
but in the NHL, it's completely unprecedented, I feel like.
I mean, Rantanen?
Yeah, it's up there, but it's
Yeah.
not. I mean, I guess,
Yeah.
could you argue, like, the Angels not being able to keep Shohei
Yeah,
Ohtani?
that's a
Like,
pretty good one.
I guess that's, like, in terms of, like, the gravity of the situation, of the gravity of the player and who he's going to become and who he will go down in baseball/hockey
Right.
history as, like, the legacy of it all.
I like that. That's a good one. I think we're all in agreement here. This is a playoff team once again.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's ask the harder hitting question then. So Anders, you said at the beginning, and I totally agree, that this team is cup or bust. Do we think this team goes to the Stanley Cup final for a third year in a row?
I don't. I mean, I would have said that the past 2 years too, though, so I guess I don't really know.
Right.
It's always impossible with them because they are, like, embarrassingly awful in October, and then they slowly ramp up
Yes.
through the year, and then you get to the playoffs, and you're like, "Well, it could be the Oilers," and then it always is somehow. But I don't know. I think a lot of things would have to go right for them to end up back there this year.
I also am going to say no. I also say no every year because I don't really like the Oilers. I think it's what I said before, the identity thing. I think that will be the why they don't get back there, and I think that they will surely miss what those players, Perry and Kane, brought to the lineup.
I'm going to have to agree. I think that, going to the Stanley Cup final 3 years in a row is just hard enough. I also think that some of the teams we talked about in our Central Division preview did a lot more in the offseason than this team did. I do expect the Oilers to buy at the deadline. I think they're going to try and add one, maybe two more key pieces here to maybe get them over the hump. But yeah, I just looking up and down this roster, I mean, you never know what happens if you get 97 and 29 in the postseason. But I just think, even now, like if they ran into LA again, like LA's had what, like 3 or 4 years
Holy
of
fuck.
trying to beat this team. So it's
Yeah.
like, they're going to do it eventually. It's a Caps Penguins. It's a law of
It is.
averages thing here. Like, so I think it's inevitable that, eventually someone's going to knock them off in the first or second round.
Well, should we use that transition to talk about the Kings?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go over to LA. So these guys have obviously gone up against the Oilers many times in the last couple years in the postseason. Key departures for the Kings would be Gavrikov and Jordan Spence. Their big ads are going to be Brian Dumoulin, Cody Ceci, Joel Armia, Corey Perry, which I love for the Kings. This is a really interesting lineup. I think the Kings, Mac, you and I can agree on this, have been slowly building over the last couple years, and I kind of really like what they're doing. This is so hard. I mean, what do we think about the Kings? I'm tempted to say that this is going to be one of the better teams in this division, if not the Western Conference this season, but I think there might be like one or two pieces that they're still away on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the like Dumoulin and Ceci stuff pissed a lot of Kings fans off this postseason with like the contracts and like how much they like spent to get those guys. I get that. I kind of agree for the most part. I do think that, I don't know, I actually can't decide which one of those guys I think is a more competent NHL defenseman. It's kind of close, I guess, but besides that, I like their decor a lot. And I don't even necessarily hate Dumoulin or Ceci. I just don't think they're like incredible these days. But
Right.
besides that, Edmondson, Brant Clark, Drew Doughty, Mikey Anderson, it's a good decor overall. Love the goaltending situation. Darcy Kemper had a fantastic year last year. He's still signed for several more years on that Capitals contract that was traded over along in the deal for PLD. I expect him to have another good year, and they've got Anton Forsberg backing up, so that's stable enough. It should be fine. Looking at the forward core, I know Corey Perry is like hurt. I don't know for how long.
He's week to week right now.
Yeah, that just happened, right? In like practice or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's not ideal, but I don't think it'll be like a season ender or anything too bad.
He'll be fine.
I don't know. I like this team a lot on paper.
I do too.
I think they're pretty nasty, honestly. And especially with Kopitar, right? He announced this is his final season.
Yeah.
I wonder what that does for this team. A lot of these guys have learned a lot from him. Some of the younger guys haven't been with him as long, but there's guys on this team like Doughty, who have been there the whole time with him, that probably want to see him win it again and win it with him and that kind of things.
I'll say it now. I wouldn't
Sure
hate
want
it.
to see them win against the fucking Oilers if it comes down to that too. So that's basically their Stanley Cup in a way at
Yeah.
that point. But no, I like this team. I really do.
Yeah.
I typically am not the biggest fan of the Kings for obvious reasons, but I do like Kopitar a lot, and I would be really happy to see him get like a nice proper like farewell tour. And in my notes for them, I have just don't play the Oilers in the first round. Are they stupid? So I think overall game plan and outlook, the advice that I would give them is to just avoid the Oilers.
Yeah, just stop playing the
Just
Oilers.
stop
Are
doing
you
that
guys
to
stupid?
yourself.
Why do you
Yeah.
keep doing that?
It's like just like a speed bump in the road that they keep forgetting about and then like driving over too fast and like blowing a tire on. Sorry, not to pour salt in the
Yeah, I was
wound,
gonna
Mac,
say,
but
maybe avoid
hold
car
on, hold
metaphors
on.
right now.
yeah, I really like the grittiness of this team. Like you look at like their third line, Warren Fogle, Philip Deneau, Trevor Moore. That's amazing. Love Alex Turcotte centering the fourth line. And then that second line is juicy. Fiala, Byfield, Laferriere. That's been a really
Very
fun
nasty.
one to watch in the last couple of years. I've seen these guys play live the last 2 years running, and Quentin Byfield's amazing to watch live. Same with Alex Laferriere, but I think my favorite player to watch on this team is Brant Clark. I mean, talk about unbelievable skating, unbelievable hands, the ability to go from forwards to backwards in essentially a second and be at full speed going backwards. I don't know how that's physically possible, but the guy does it. So Mac, I also think you make some great points about the goaltending situation. I think this is one of the better goaltending duos, not only in the league, but definitely in the Western Conference. So I definitely think these guys are a playoff team, and I think they've got some points to prove this year.
I gave out a handful of sleeper fantasy hockey picks in the last episode. Haven't given one yet, but I'll give you one right now. And you just mentioned him. I think Alex Laferriere is a very sneaky pick for a fantasy hockey team.
Yeah, loves to crash the net, but is also skilled enough to create on his own. I think that's such a dual threat that a lot of young guys have now, but definitely a guy that flies under the radar. I feel like, maybe it's just because he's Western Conference, but I mean, if that guy was playing in Ottawa, Montreal, or Toronto, he would be a fan favorite for sure.
Absolutely.
Shall we go down to San Jose and check in on the Sharks?
Yes, playoff team though, by the way, right?
Absolutely.
Kings, everybody,
Playoff
yes,
team.
yes,
Totally.
yes.
Yeah.
Great. Okay.
Let's go to San Jose. Big ads, Adam Gaudette, John Klingberg, Dmitry Orlov, and then they acquired Carey Price's contract for some, I have no idea why reason, but then again, given the decision-making they've made this week with hanging banners, maybe they're not the smartest franchise on the planet, so it is what it is.
Wait, what did they do?
They hung like a President's Trophy banner and they got the year wrong.
But
my
they were
God.
off by like 5 years. It wasn't
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, like I think it might have been
did
the year
not hear about
the
that.
Caps won the President's
I
Trophy.
think it was, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so.
really funny. They can have it from that year if they want it. I don't care.
We don't want that trophy at all.
Give it back.
Exactly. Like, all right, so
It's
this
my
team,
habit, man. Give it back.
this team is young. That's the adjective I'm going to use. Obviously you've got Celebrini, Will Smith, Michael Misa, Will Eklund, Ty Dellandrea. I mean, what are we expecting here? Because it's been bad for a while. Is it going to get better, or is it going to be, same as it ever was?
Listen, this is a fun team. Like
It is.
It's got a lot of flashy, like fun stars that are just fun to watch on the ice. Jeff Skinner, Celebrini, obviously, Will Smith. I know I just said young, but I love Tyler Toffoli. I've always loved his game. I think it's funny that he's like become like the dad of this group. Like all the memes that we see of like Will Smith and Celebrini being like, if we all score a goal tomorrow, you have to sleep over in our hotel room, like shit like that. And then he scores, and then there's literally a picture of him like laying on a like futon in their hotel room, and then being like, "Yay!" Like dad slept over. I don't know,
Just like ruining the man's back for
literally,
a week.
He's like, Jesus Christ. Okay. No, I love a lot of these players though. I think it's a fun team. The D, I'm trying to get to it. Where's the D at? Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. The Orlov ad is good. But that adds to their D. That like doubled how good their D is just with that.
100%.
And that's like, I don't know. I get Nick Leddy's a good skater, always has been. Klingberg, he's good. I think he's a little dinged up. Kind of feels like he always is. Mario Ferraro, fine. Liljegren, fine. I don't know much about the other guy, Shakir. That's who's projected right now in the lineup anyway.
Right.
We'll see what happens at camp. But overall, not a great D situation. And then going over the goaltending situation, very interesting. Askarov, Milwaukee Admirals legend, might I
Right.
add. I know a lot of Preds and Admirals fans were very sad to see him go because he is a pretty highly touted prospect. I think he showed glimpses of why last year. I think he's got potential to really earn that number one spot and be like a good goalie in this league. It's going to be tough with that decor though that I just mentioned. There is that. And
I
then
think
they
that's
got
the key.
Ned as the other goalie, I think.
Like Askarov, we know what he can do. This is going to be his chance to step up and take that cage, like you just said. This is going to be his chance to say, hey, this is what I can do as a starter. I'm your guy. But I think you make a great point. It's not necessarily going to be the easiest, especially when you have this lineup. I think if you look at their standings from last year, this is a team that finished the season with 52 points. So I don't think that's going to happen again this year. I would be really shocked if it did. And honestly, I'd be pretty concerned. But yeah, I think that decor, you make some good points, Mac. Like if this was 5 years ago, Orlov, Letty, and Klingberg, that would look great. But
Yeah.
obviously, it is not 5 years ago. So, those guys, like you mentioned, definitely have some miles on them. You mentioned the situation with Klingberg being dinged up. That's definitely something that we've seen in the past. But I do like the Orlov ad for them. I know we're a little bit biased because he was a cap for a little while, but I thought he was really underutilized in Carolina, even though he was one of their better skating defensemen. So I'm really interested to see what he can do in a Sharks uniform.
Yeah, me too. I think he'll look good in it too.
Definitely. Hard
I
not
mean,
to.
some of the best harps in the league always have
By
got
far,
that going for them.
absolutely.
So
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think you kind of nailed it, Mac. I think they're going to be a really fun team. Like I fully expect them to be the worst team in the league still, but I'll probably be watching them as much as anyone other than the Canucks.
I think the Blackhawks will be worse.
I could see that.
Ooh.
I think it depends how much more we see from Celebrini this
Yeah,
year,
that's
because I mean he's obviously unbelievable. Like attacking on the rush in between the dots for a 19-year-old, he's probably the best I've seen.
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't know. There's a lot. I'm excited for a full year of Yaroslav in net for them. I think there's a lot of questions, but it's expectations are this low, and sometimes young teams just don't know that they're supposed to lose. And it
Yeah.
seems like
Yeah,
really
that's a
good
good point.
atmosphere there. I don't know if it gels, they could. I think they could, have 20 more points than they did last year.
Yeah.
Still last place, but like some serious like progress.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I totally agree.
definitely. Also, not a bad year to be in last place, given what we have
Right.
seen is on the way. So, there is always that. But group consensus, I would say this is absolutely not a playoff team, correct?
Yeah, not quite.
Yes.
Okay, let's go ahead and move into Seattle. They acquired Ryan Lindgren. They signed Matt Murray. Had a relatively low-key offseason, kind of similar to the Calgary Flames. How do we feel about this team? I feel like this is a little bit of an anomaly. They've had some guys come in. They've had some guys leave. You're looking at guys like Burakovsky and Tanev that were there over the last couple of years that aren't there anymore. Just initial impressions on the Seattle team, and do you think there's a chance they can kind of get out of limbo this year?
Where's you want to go?
Yeah, one of my main notes on Seattle here is what the fuck is the vision? And that's just generally how I feel. I think over the past few years, or at least like since they made the playoffs, they've the moves that they've made mirror this kind of like management strategy that, funnily enough, I see a lot in the Seattle Mariners, where it's like, I don't really care if we make the playoffs, just don't fucking embarrass yourselves out there. And it's just a bunch of guys that like, they're good. I like Capo Caco a lot. I like a lot of these guys. I think their goaltending situation isn't terrible. It's just it's not going to win you enough games to be anywhere near as a wild card, and it's also not going to lose you enough games to have a good enough draft pick to like really start building something.
Yeah, I think to answer Nick's question, I kind of don't see them getting out of limbo. I don't know. There's just really not a whole lot of like firepower here. There hasn't really been ever. And yeah, I just don't know. Yeah, I agree, Anders. I don't see the vision or the direction. Yeah, I honestly think you said it kind of perfectly. I don't have much else to add. They're just a bunch of guys that play hockey, and some of them are pretty good at it. Like they're all right, but
Like, if you would have told me that this was an expansion team that drafted yesterday, I would
Yeah.
still believe.
Yeah,
It does feel like that.
That's a
it's
great
literally
point.
like, yeah, okay, they're not that good, but they're just getting out there. They'll figure it out in a couple of years. And it's like,
yeah.
wait, is this their 4th year now in the league?
Been more than a couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Which I
I
know are
don't
like expectations for expansion teams were like completely ruined by what Vegas did, obviously, but like
right. Yeah.
you should be better than this by now.
I don't hate the defense. Vince Dunn, Adam Larson, Alexiak, Montour, Lindgren, and Riker Evans. I would
Vince
say
Dunn's a great player. Great
and
player.
we've seen what Montour can do. We've seen what Lindgren can do. So if they can just keep that up and be consistent, I think that'll be a huge help for them. I think this forward core is going to ask a lot of Matty Beniers, Jordan Eberle, and Chandler Stevenson. That's kind of
And
where I look
Kakko.
at things. Yeah, and Kako. That's kind of where I look at things falling. So, yeah, I don't really feel great about any of those. Goaltending, once again, is okay. Grubauer's kind of fallen off to the backup here, and Joey Decord has kind of cemented himself as the starter. That could change 3 or 4 times this season. Who knows? But it's kind of just one of those things where they're kind of just there,
I don't think I don't know if I'll say they're definitely not good enough to compete for a wild card. I think there's a world they could be in that fight, but it just comes down to like what some of these dudes like, can they reach their ceiling? Because like even dudes like
Right.
Mason Marchment, I think could have a really good year. Like I honestly, that line of like Marchment, Stevenson, and Tolvanen, if
Yeah.
those 3 guys perform at their highest capability, I do think there's a world where this team is like kind of knocking on the door a little bit. But even then, like it just goes back. What I mostly mean by like I don't see the vision is just that like even if they squeeze into the playoffs, I don't see this as a team that can like win a playoff series right now.
Yeah.
I just don't see like the point really in them getting in.
I honestly think the best thing that could happen to them is that they suck way more than they expect to, and we get a lot of ice time for Yanni Newman and Berkeley Catton, and then they just like get a little bit of luck in the lottery, and suddenly there's a vision.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, that's probably is the best thing that could happen.
That could definitely help them out. I agree, Mac. I think it's one of those things where they could, if dominoes fall, they could be knocking on the door for a wild card spot. But if they got in, I don't think I would be shocked if there's a first round exit there. Let's go ahead and move on to Vegas. I think we're all in agreement, not a playoff team for the Seattle Kraken.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
cool. The Vegas Golden Knights. So this is, obviously been a team that we've had to keep our eye on ever since they, came into the league and went to the Stanley Cup final their first year. They are not shy about buying people or trading people. So another busy offseason for them. Real quick before we get into their big acquisition, Alex Pietrangelo done for the year, season-ending surgery. That is a huge hit for this team. I don't think people understand
How
to an
old is he?
extent. He's I think he's
35.
got to be getting up there. Let me double check.
Like, is there a world he's done forever?
He is 35.
The hip injury.
I feel like he's
Yeah.
had so many issues the last couple of years.
It's definitely going to be a tough road back. I mean, the fact that they're kind of already going, hey, like, and this happened, like a couple months ago where they're like, all right, done for the year.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely
Yeah.
not something you want to hear when you're calling it for the season in June
Yeah.
or July.
Well, his reports out of his camp are saying that he might deny surgery and try and make it back,
God.
but that is a
Wow.
horrible idea. No one who cares about him would let that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough, man. The big acquisition, and unfortunately a name that we've had to see at the forefront of every hockey article for the last 2 to 3 business years has been Mitch Marner is now a Las Vegas Golden Knight. So now that he's moved, now we have to talk about what it's going to be like in Toronto without him and what it's going to be like in Vegas with him. But I think this is really interesting now. You've got 2 teams from the East in Buffalo and Toronto who have let a key piece come to Vegas. And we've already seen Jack Eichel win the Stanley Cup. Do you guys think this is a situation where Marner, hits the ground running with the Knights? Do we see maybe a little bit of a growth period here? It's something that we haven't really seen in a while.
Personally, I think he's going to be excellent right away for them. I think it's going to be a perfect fit. I also will go ahead and give out another sleeper pick right now and tell you that I think Ivan Barbashev is going to be the benefactor of a lot of points because there's a good chance he's going to be playing with Jack Eichel and Mitch Marner this year. If it's not him, though, I've also heard that Dorofeyev could be a guy that they look to try and slot in on that line. So keep your eye on that. Whatever guy ends up on that line with Eichel and Marner is going to be a guy who, name-wise, will be like a later round, middle round draft pick in a fantasy league. But because of that line mate situation, he's going to get you like first or second round guy kind of points. So I'll say that right off the bat. Now back to the team. I think this is just it's a very nasty forward core for sure. You've got Eichel, you've got Marner, you've got William Karlsson, Mark Stone, Riley Smith. It's a nasty team. I haven't even talked about Hurdle or Dorofeyev, as I just mentioned, but the D and the goalie are a little more strange to me. The D is like, it's like pretty good. A lot of these guys are like, most NHL fans would tell you are like elite defensemen, and I would argue about almost every single one of them. I think like McNabb and Whitecloud are very much like okay defensemen in my opinion. I don't think either one is like incredible.
Solid B.
Theodore, we've seen him be like one of the best defensemen in the league. We've also seen him kind of just be nothing. So I think it just depends what you get there. Hannafin, I know, is like everyone I feel like talks about how good this guy is.
Yeah.
I have him more like a B+. I don't think he's like a top 10 defender in the league or anything, but I know a lot of people are really high on him. Overall, I think this D core, it's good. It's better than most teams probably, but I don't think it's like the most lethal thing. And I'll just say it, I don't like their goaltending. I've never liked it. I don't like it. I know it worked for them. They won a Stanley Cup with Aiden Hill, but I don't like the tandem of Hill and Schmid whatsoever. I don't.
They kept the wrong one.
Yeah, they did. They literally did.
Yeah,
I don't really
think,
know.
Aiden Hill has always been serviceable, but every year I feel like I see more and more cracks from him. I just wanted to touch on the Mitch Marner thing real quick. I think he's coming off a career year, at least counting stats wise already, and I think it goes even better this year. I think he was never built for the Toronto Lights whatsoever, so I think he'll play with a lot more freedom. He has, a ton of talent around him now too. Not that he didn't before, but unfortunately, I think we're going to be hearing more and more about Mitch Marner the entire year.
Definitely. I think it's going to be a little bit of a revenge tour. I think,
For sure.
he's away from all the, we've seen all the bullshit that him and his family had to deal with, and that's just ridiculous. We've seen that the fan base basically drove him out of Toronto for lack of a better excuse. And I think going to a place like Vegas where, that is a passionate fan base, don't get me wrong, but that guy can walk around and his family can go places. And it's not going to be like he needs a presidential motorcade to do so. I think that's just going to be such a relaxing change of pace for him. I mean, living outside Vegas, you guys have seen those houses up in the hills. You can get a ton. It's a state with no state income tax, so you got to love that. I think he's going to absolutely love it here. I think he's going to thrive. I think the family's going to do great. So I really just see this as him, putting down some roots here. And Mac, I totally agree with what you said. I think he kind of takes off right away.
I'll tell you right now, mark your calendar, January 23rd. It's a Friday night, Vegas in Toronto. That is going to be a game you're going to want to.
Yeah. That's
I think we obviously are all going to end up agreeing that they're a playoff team, but what would you personally qualify as a successful year for these guys? Because they make this big move. The other thing with the Mitch Marner thing is that they make this big move as this declaration of we're not letting our window close. We still want to win, which I find a little interesting with Mitch because he's kind of developing a reputation as a guy who shrinks in the playoffs a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing about Vegas, and we've talked about it a little bit on the show the last year or two, is the way they approach the trade deadline every year and the way they've approached their plan and overall trajectory is unlike any other team. It is ballsy as hell. And they kind of play it like you're a 14-year-old playing franchise mode on the Xbox or something. You're draft picks? I don't give a fuck about this shit. You're just getting rid of all that and being I can give this guy a draft pick that I don't care about because I'm playing a video game and I can get the best player in the league right now. Yeah, give it to me. But at some point, that's going to catch up with them. So I think, I know they already won a Stanley Cup, so it's not like they, didn't benefit from that mentality at all. But I think the reason they've been stepping on this gas pedal in the way they have been is because they want another one or maybe even two. I think, to answer your question, Anders, if they don't, I think they got to at least like get to the conference final or even the cup final to consider this any kind of a successful season.
I think it's third round. If they lose in the third round, I don't think the fans are going to necessarily be upset, nor does that fan base have any reason to complain about anything. So shut the hell up. But like, yeah, I think second, third round, I think is a successful year for them. But Mac, I totally agree. I expect them to do some more crazy shit at the deadline because they always do.
They're all in.
They're
chips. They're pushing all the chips to the center of the table. They have been for the last like 2 years, and there's no reason to stop now. Because if you're already doing that, it's like you got to kind of do it all the way or don't do it.
It's funny because like they're kind of like the older sibling that's like, I'm gonna do this new thing, and then Carolina's like, I want to do that too because he's doing that. Like,
dude, yeah, that's so funny. Actually, wow.
I want to trade my players, Mom. Come on.
I cannot wait to be mean to the Hurricanes during the Metro episode. It's going to be really fun for me.
So I think we're all in agreement. Playoff team here. Cool. The last team we're going to do is the Vancouver Canucks. So Anders,
we probably just end the episode. I don't think anybody
we don't really
cares about them.
Yeah, Anders, let's turn it over to you. What can we expect from the Canucks this season?
Well, obviously for anyone who was paying attention to the Canucks last season was pretty similar to McCain's car in the sense that anything that could go wrong did. It was a fucking disaster. But weirdly, and you guys from like an outside perspective can tell me if you think I'm being overly optimistic or kind of coping with that. But I kind of have found this weird level of Zen comfort in the idea that everything that possibly could have gone wrong went wrong, and they still ended the year with like 90 points. Obviously, the drama between JT Miller and Elias Pettersson and how that affected his play, that was a huge storyline. And then injuries to Elias and Quinn Hughes and Thatcher Demko. It's a lot of stuff that, like, fundamentally, going into this season shouldn't be on our plate anymore. I don't know. Obviously, the health of Thatcher Demko has been a problem for years now. And with losing Silovs, I think we're kind of putting a lot of trust in the idea that Kevin Lankinen, who did have like a really good year when he had to, there's just not a lot of backup plans for this team. I think this roster on paper could pretty comfortably get into the wild card spot, but we just need to go through an entire year without our stadium being built on a fucking ancient burial ground.
That would definitely help. Let me ask you this. Like, what does successful years look like for Thatcher Demko and Elias Pettersson, given, you mentioned Demko's injury issues, and obviously we all know what happened with Pettersson last year. So what does like a good year look like for them in your mind?
Yes, the great Thatcher Demko mystery.
Exactly.
Well, I think for Thatch, if he can get 50 games on the ice, I think that's perfectly reasonable. Even if he plays half the games, if they completely platoon it with him and Kevin Lankinen and he stays healthy and he's ready for the playoffs, if we, get that far, I would be very happy with that. For PD, it's just like, I don't know, obviously coming off the worst year of his career by far, I do think he's going to bounce back now that some of the chemistry issues have been sorted, but it's the same thing with him, just stay on the ice, because I think he has all the talent in the world, and if he can stay healthy, he'll be just fine. I think I like the idea of what Evander Kane can kind of do to open up some of those scoring opportunities for PD. But
I think this is going to sound silly, but my quote-unquote sleeper fantasy pick for this team is actually Elias Pettersson. And I know he's not really a sleeper, but I think because of the year he had last year, not Niels, not the D guy. I'll get to that in a second. I think just because of the year he had last year, he'll fall a little bit lower. Like, I'm sure he'll still be like, depending on how many people in your league, he'll be like a first or second round pick. But I'm saying like, he's not going to go like top 5 overall or anything. So if you've got a later pick, he might be somebody that you want to target. It is so ridiculous that this team has 2 guys named Elias Pettersson. Can we just say that?
They've got
and make
3
sure
guys
that we all know that?
with the last name Pettersson.
I know,
all spelled the same
Marcus
way.
Pettersson, yeah.
No relation.
No relation, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. They've just got a lot of funny names in general, a lot of good names. I love Lekaramaki. I love that name. I know your favorite guy, Atu Rowdy.
Yeah. Hoglander, barely knew her. That's a great one.
Right.
Yeah,
What can we expect from Atu Radi this year? Because that's a name that we've seen definitely at the World Championships, at the World Juniors. It's definitely been at the top of a lot of European scouting reports. So what do you think the vibe is from him this season?
Yeah, I'm really excited about him, which he does my two favorite things a hockey player can do, which is play for the Canucks and be Finnish. So I'm always going to be a little bit biased towards him, but I do sincerely kind of project him as a probably less counting stats, less effective, kind of that Bo Horvat role that we used to have. This like Swiss Army knife who can get big plays and big moments. And maybe it doesn't always show up in the box score every night, but he's physical, he's strong. And I hope by the end of the year that he's very firmly slotted in at that like 3C kind of role.
I think he makes more sense as the 3C and maybe have Bluger be 4 or something like that. But I don't know. I like this team. I think their D is awesome. I mean, obviously Quinn Hughes, some people have him as the top defender in the league. Wherever you've got him, he's for sure top 5. I've always loved Philip Hronik. I think that's one of the better, sneakier moves that the Canucks have made in the last couple of years is getting him. It really comes down to goaltending for me with this team about how good or bad they could be. I fully think all the forward shit that happened last year will be fine. I think PD will have a good year. I think now that the Besser signing drama is over and he's like solidified a spot here for the next several years, I think he'll have another good year. I think Evander Kane's going to have a good year with the Canucks too. I'm not worried about the forwards at all. I think the D will be just fine, and it's really just the goalies. If Demko has a good year, I think this team could be one of the top 3 in the division.
I think this team, the key for them is like if they get into the playoffs with how gritty they are, I think they can do some damage. I think they're a wild card team that could go in and really ruin someone's plans to go deep here. I mean, you look at, they bring in Evander Kane. They've got guys like DeBrusk that don't mind getting physical. Kiefer Sherwood was at the top of the hit chart all season last year.
Didn't he
That was
break
fantastic.
the record for hits last year?
He did. And talk
By,
about
a lot, I think.
Talk about a fantasy hockey steal. That was one of the few bright spots on my roster last year. So,
Yeah,
I'm going to hang my hat on that one. But yeah, for me, Mac, I agree. It does come down to goaltending. That's kind of been, you and I have talked about it at length. Where in the world is Thatcher Demko? No one really knows. So if he can be healthy and this team can get into the postseason, it's like it kind of doesn't matter how you get there. As long as he's ready to go in game 1, I think everything's in play for them.
Do you know who's after Lankinen in the goaltending depth chart? Like who would be the next guy if Demko's?
I mean, it was forever. It was Seelovs, and now they're
that's
kind
why
of
I
figuring
asked.
that
Yeah,
out.
because I like if I wouldn't even be that worried about it if they hadn't gotten rid of Shelovs, because it's like I know he's a pretty capable young goalie, so it's like if Demko's on the shelf for any period of time, at least you've got Lankinen and Shelovs. It's like okay, that's fine, but
yeah, because the quiet part out loud for Demko last year is even when he was like healthy, which who knows if he's just playing through. Lankinen was a better goalie than him for all of last season.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible that we see that again this year. We paid both of them, and we paid Demko like we think he's better. But I think for us to make any sort of noise, I think Demko needs to be old.
I was talking to you about this off air like a week or two ago at the bar or something, but it's fascinating to me that every time all summer long when I see like a top 10 like goaltenders in the league graphic or something like that, like Demko's on there every time. And I'm like, the league and the fan base and just like NHL fans seem to have like cut him a lot of slack over the last couple of years in terms of injuries, in terms of like cold streaks, in terms of all that. People seem to still believe that he is a top 10 or at least top 15 goaltender in this league. Do you feel that way?
Top 15, I'd say, yeah. Top 10, I'm a little shaky about. I think at his ceiling, like, he has nights that very few goalies are capable of in this league. But I am probably less enthusiastic about him. I mean, like, coming back from a hip injury, too, it's such a tough injury for a goalie.
It really is. Yeah, that's what worries me.
I don't know. I'm actually, like, way higher on Lankinen than I was when he first had to take over this job, so he's a good backup plan, but there is no backup plan beyond him now. So that's what's concerning.
Lankinen was in Chicago with Fleury at the same time, wasn't he?
Believe so.
So, I mean, he learned from Fleury a little bit. I'm pretty sure those guys were actually pretty good buddies, like while they were platooning over there in Chi-Town.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say that Demko Top 15. I think the only reason I wouldn't say top 10 is just sample size of consistency over the last couple years. But, we've seen there was that playoff series in 2020, 2021 where he went in against the Blues and just stood on his head.
It was the bubble, wasn't it?
I think it was the bubble. So, I mean, I think we know
that was kind of like his big coming out party, I feel like. That's
and
when everyone was like, holy shit, is this guy one of the best goalies in the league?
If they can get back to something like that, who knows? Granted, with the hip injury and everything, you never know, especially with a goalie. But yeah, I would like to see them get back to that. I would like to see this team in the playoffs this year.
All right. Well, any final notes on the Canucks?
No, I mean, I think if it's easy to forget that this team won the division a couple of years ago, and they were a game away from eliminating the Oilers. And I do, optimistically, I do think that this team has more in common with that team than we do from last year and all the JT Miller shit. And so it's really, I mean, it's you can say this about literally any team in hockey, but if they can just stay healthy, I feel pretty good about things.
Playoff team?
I would say, yeah. The last team to get in for me.
I say yes.
I'm going to say yes, but definitely a wild card for me.
I think we all picked the same 4 playoff teams for this, didn't we?
Sounds about right.
I've got Vegas, Vancouver, LA, and Edmonton. I think we all said yes for all 4 of those.
Do we have front runners for who wins this division?
I do, and I don't think anyone's going to like it one bit.
Okay.
Your division champions, the Los Angeles Kings.
I like that a lot.
Okay.
I hope you're right.
Yeah, comparatively.
Can't wait to be so wrong about that. It's going to be really embarrassing for me, but I'm willing to try it.
I hope you're right. I'm going to say I think Vegas does it again.
I also have Vegas, unfortunately, but I would love to be wrong.
Yeah. I think we can all agree, though, it's just not the Oilers.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, it's just what Anders said about it. It's they're going to play embarrassingly bad in October, and because of that, they'll have to kind of step on the gas pretty hard just to get back into second or third place in the division, and then they'll be fine. But it's because they always suck so bad for at least 1 month, usually the first month or the second month of the season.
Dude, the mid-November discussions about McDavid leaving are going to be so
my
fucking
God,
exhausting.
I can't handle it.
If I could pay for a service that would filter out McDavid contract and Marner Leafs bullshit, I would pay $200 a year for it.
Well, actually, all you have to do is just be inauthentic on Twitter, and you'll get banned, and then you don't have to look at any of it. Yeah. So I'll give you a call after and tell you how it's done.
Sounds good. Anything else before we wrap up here, gentlemen?
I think that's it. That'll do it for Western Conference. Thanks for listening, everybody. I'm really excited. Next week we'll have 2 Eastern Conference previews coming for you. I think Nick will probably do Atlantic first and then close off with the Metro. That's probably
that'll be civil.
Yeah, we may or may not be getting some guests for either of those episodes. Still kicking around a couple options, so we'll keep you posted. But either way, we'll have previews for it. Yeah, next week.